What is up, everybody? Glad to see everyone this week. Um, Happy Saturday slash Sunday. Technically, it is 3:23 in the morning. Um, However, due to government mandated attempts to make us more productive, we have daylight savings time, and yeah, so it's now 4:23 in the morning. Hope everybody remembered to move up their clocks so that you are on time for things moving forward. Um, if you did not, I will not laugh at you, but I'll be laughing with you as you adjust to your time tomorrow. Anyway, like I do every week, wanted to come on here and share a few thoughts. And I, like I say every week, I don't come at this from a bunch of deep theological and philosophical debates, and I'm not claiming to be, you know, um, a pastor per se. There are some wonderful, talented pastors out there that work hard every week to bring the word. I'm adding my take on some things as I see them, as the Lord shares it, puts it on my heart. Things that I might simmer on for part of the week. So yeah. Anyway, hopefully it brings value. Um, but anyway, here we go. So, in this day of, we've dealt with relativism now for, gosh, years, in some form or fashion, where, relativism, of course, is the philosophy that pretty much denies any sense of absolute whatsoever, that everything is relative, hence the term, to however you perceive it to be. Basically, the modern take on it is, I know my truth. Um, Everybody speaks about knowing their truth, quote unquote, and being true to myself. Um, I think somehow, though, we've gotten a little off track. So, what that really means to know your truth. Um, if there's no absolutes in your life or no standards, and you're a little addicted to the approval of other people, life gets, well, just kind of weird, because there's nothing to anchor yourself to. You are trying to live a limitless life with nothing to call home, nothing to work from, no foundation. It's like trying to create a multi-story house on the water. You gotta tie that in somewhere to some bedrock in order for to build a solid foundation and move with. So, if you put your own standards and your own moral compass aside, your own sense of being, your own what's the word I'm looking for here? Your own standards. I'll stick with standards. It works. You know, to chase what other people think, like we see on social media every day. Um, so to win approval or to fit in, whatever your ultimate goal might be, you put yourself on dangerous ground, and then, you know, because we're so afraid to be offended these days or to offend somebody else, when somebody that really loves us calls us out on the crap, we smart off with this, well, I know my truth. No, that's not how this works. Now granted, you are free to take what someone says or thinks, from a loved one as simply that. If it doesn't resonate, obviously that is your choice. But with that being said, when you know your truth, does it really line up with the truth? Again, there are standards. There's always been standards to tie to. Because, see, Jesus said in John 14:6, he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. Jesus goes on to explain in several places that God is truth. The Bible points to God as the God of truth, and he desires truth, and he desires integrity. In other words, what you say and how you live needs to match up with who you are. Psalm 51:5 shows the psalmist telling God that he desires truth in the inmost parts. That God desires everything to match up. We live in a world riddled with anger and anxiety because no one's in alignment with themselves, let alone in alignment with God as the ultimate source of truth. That's one thing I've always held my alma mater. I love their slogan, that all truth is God's truth wherever it can be found. Yeah, it's about lining up with the truth. So if the truth is the sky is blue because of how the world is made, for you to run around screaming that the sky is purple when it's not, granted, there are sometimes some purplish hues during sunsets. I'm not going to argue with that. But I'm saying if you're trying to claim it's something besides the blue that it is, that's not your truth. That is your perspective. There's a big difference. And so Jesus tells us that the greatest commandments are, 1, to love God with everything we have, and 2, love others as we love ourselves. But how do we love others when we don't even love what we see in the mirror every day? And how can we love what we see in the mirror every day if we're not completely honest with ourselves and with God, lining up with His truth, rather than falling for the lie of trying to please others and claiming that as our truth? I see people's opinions change like the wind. And lately, the wind has been... I've made this comment to several people. The wind has been abnormally strong here in the Midwest for the last year. I feel in my heart there's probably some spiritual significance to that. Hard to say. I can't back that up with any kind of data. Just one of those gut feelings, because the spiritual and the natural do work in tandem. Both worlds are very real. And, so people's opinions, like I said, are like the wind. I mean, heck, it even says in the Bible, Palm Sunday that we celebrate coming up, since we're coming up here in the Easter season, we're in the time of Lent. People worshipped him, and the very next week they crucified him. The Bible even mentions that Jesus was not moved by the opinion of man for that reason. So if he took example and he made the practice and the habit of not basing his entire life and mission on what other people thought, we probably should do the same. You think? So the world of comparisons and the way our social media is set up has not made this any easier. So we see folks on social media who seem happy and successful, knowing sometimes that's a front. You always put your best foot forward, But we don't see that. If I don't see that in my life, all of a sudden now I have a tendency to feel bad for my life. Maybe, want to try to put a false front forward so I can be compared with so-and-so down the street or so-and-so across the country or across the world who doesn't even know who I am. And here I am trying to compare. And I blame God because my life is not that. Well, that person's not on my journey, and I'm not on that person's journey. The things I may be facing now, that person faced years ago. So how can I compare my chapter 7, say, to his chapter or her chapter 40? And yet we do it daily and completely get ourselves out of alignment because we're trying to compare to somebody else's journey. Why? We've got to stop this, myself included. I fall temptation to it too. I'm not even gonna pretend like I don't. I've spent a lot of my life addicted to other people's opinions, worried about whether or not I was liked or not. And frankly, I constantly am watching it now. I'm over it. I'm over it. And I get rather upset with myself because it pulls me out of alignment every time. Every time you're worried about what somebody else thinks. And so, when we get this going, we're trying to embrace what other people think instead of embracing who we really are and who we are in God. All of a sudden now we've created this nasty cycle. So, we compare and then we have broken expectations. It's like, God, why hasn't my life been like that? Why haven't I had a breakthrough? And then dishonesty, because we don't want to admit that we haven't gotten to that point, because half the time we're not even putting in the work ourselves. And so we're trying to get level 15 experiences when we're not even working to get past level 3. That's just not how it works. You got to put in the work. You got to trust the process. The problem is, though, then we create further anxiety for ourselves because we're not there. And all of a sudden now we feel like we're behind. And why do we torment ourselves this way? Why? I mean, we literally are shortening our lifespans by getting to this crazy rat race that may not even be what we're called to do. It's not even half the time what God has created us to be. We're trying to be something that we're not. Why? Then that's not even counting all the people that decide they want to be catfish. They're so scared to be themselves, they try to be somebody else and steal their pictures and identity. And I'm a famous model. No, you're not. No famous person has that many secondary accounts. They're not that controlled by their manager. Come on. Come up with a better storyline. And how about this? Be yourself. Because you're living a lie. And God desires us to be honest and walk in integrity with who we are. Because see, even the Bible refers to this stuff. See, the psalmist saw this in Psalm 32. He said, when I kept silent, when my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long, for day and night your hand was heavy on me, and my strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Then I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave my sin and the guilt of my sin. Therefore, all the faithful pray to you, while you may be found. Surely the rising of the mighty waters will not reach them. You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with songs of deliverance. You see, David acknowledged by being silent or by turning a blind eye to the truth that God placed in him. He felt the pressure of being out of alignment, that pressure of being in sin, because God doesn't tolerate it. He wants truth in the inmost parts. In other words, he wants us to line up with how we're created, to accept and embrace the truth, not try to live something we're not. To be out of alignment with who God created to be is literally just sin, because we've settled for a lie. We've settled for less than his best, and God declared us to be otherwise. David found that the only freedom came when he confessed his sin, he got really honest, and he embraced the truth. You see, God already knows the truth about who you are, about who I am. We consistently fool ourselves, though, because we won't admit it. We won't embrace it. We feel like it's maybe too dark or too ugly, or there's a part of us that we won't think that is not acceptable to other people. I got 2 words for you. Who cares? The people we're worried about trying to please half the time are not even worried about who we are. They're not thinking about our existence on the planet. So why do we put ourselves through this nonsense? And then ultimately, the one that we need the approval from the most, God, is sitting here going, what are you doing, man? And so we've broken the communion with him to chase after somebody else's opinion. Stop it. I have to look myself in the mirror and say the same thing. Stop it. Get free of that nonsense, because that's all it is nonsense. We bought into a lie of the enemy, thinking that we need to get approval of Sir Bill or Sir Joe or Ma'am Karen or Ma'am Becky, whoever. Why? Their opinion is not as important as God's. And to put anybody else's opinion above his is idolatry. It's sin, straight up. I didn't make the rules. I'm just relaying them. And I'm passionate about it because I fight it and have fought it in my own life so much. I would spare you the frustrations that sometimes I deal with in my own life for that reason. We have to stop. We have to stop chasing after the wind, basically. Because that's how people's opinions are. There's only one opinion that doesn't change, because he doesn't change. And that's God. God has the highest vision for us. Plans for hope and a future, To chase after anybody else's opinion is fooling ourselves. We literally make ourselves miserable, sometimes to the point of physical illness, because we pull ourselves so far out of alignment, we're not even living in integrity of our own life, let alone in integrity of what God desires for us. And we're so far from the truth, sometimes we lose track. We wouldn't know what it was if it smacked us in the face. It's time to get real. Time to get truthful. Stop being offended by everybody else's opinion. Who cares? Those opinions are here today and gone tomorrow. People that vote for global warming, all of a sudden we'll be talking about the next ice age in a year. This stuff is all ebb and flow. Stick with what matters. The rock. God himself. It doesn't change. It said, the word says he's here. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Are you struggling by living a lie? Living out of alignment with the truth of what God has asked you to be? There's only one way to get free of it, and that's to confess it to him. Get in your own grill, as it were. Look in the mirror if you have to, but get real and get really honest. Embrace the truth and let the truth set you free. Not your truth, but his truth. It's the only one that matters. If my truth, quote unquote, doesn't line up with God's truth, it is not true. It's simply my perspective. And we need to be man enough and woman enough to finally admit that. Stop trying to find another way. It is his way, period. I don't want some fake version of the truth or watered down because somebody thinks I can't take it. I want the truth, and I will embrace only the truth. Only then can you set yourself free of the mental anguish and the heaviness that comes from this chasing after other people's opinions. Get real with God and get real with yourself. Again, like I say every week, I'm preaching this as much to myself as I do anybody else. Because then only then, when you're real with God and you're real with yourself, can you then be really real with other people. We try to get the cart before the horse. It's time. It's time to rise up and be you. The real you. Who cares what other people think? The masses, again, like I said, praise Jesus one week and crucified him the next. Literally. If you think cancel culture will approve you because you stay quiet, I got news for you. They'll turn on you just as fast. They're like ravenous wolves. They'll turn on anybody that they get a wild hair to go after. Don't kid yourself. You're better to find approval in God. Like I said, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He doesn't change. He is our hiding place, like Psalm 32:7 says. Let him approve you in truth and then stand up and shine that truth regardless of what other people think. This is your journey. This is my journey. It's your path, my path. God didn't put anyone else on it, and he didn't put me or you on anybody else's path. It's yours and yours alone, and you need to embrace that. And I need to embrace mine. That's my thoughts today. I know it's kind of passionate, but I'm tired of seeing people suffer because they're trying to match up to somebody else's expectations. And most of the time, those expectations are self-induced. It's what you think they are expecting of you. And half the time, they're not even thinking about you. Stop putting yourself through that. Work with God. His opinion matters. His opinion is eternal. Nobody else's is. So who cares what they think? Lord Jesus, forgive us for worrying about the opinions of others. Forgive us for creating idolatry, putting other people's opinions above yours when yours is the only one that matters. Help us embrace the truth of who you are, of who we are, and then stand in that truth. Amen. I love you guys. Like I said, I have fought with this my whole life. And I would love to spare anybody the pain and anguish of being addicted to other people's opinions and other people's approval. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying that other people don't matter, because we're called to love them. But if you can't love yourself and you can't stand on your own ground, you will never effectively love other people. That's why Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. You can't love your neighbor if you don't love what you see in the mirror. Let's get back to basics. Let's love God, love ourselves so we can love people. And by that, I'm not referring to bath bombs and all those cute little me time things. I'm talking about getting real with what you see in the mirror. Doing things that you would be proud of. Setting goals, accomplishing those goals, pushing past mental barriers, rising up and being what God's called you to be. Those are the things that matter. Be blessed this weekend. Be safe with all the St. Patrick's Day things going on this week. Be safe. Some people do foolish things when they're intoxicated, so be safe. I love you guys. Be blessed.